What's up, world? What's going on? It's your main man, the author. Right back at that ass again. Here's another one. I should have said, all right. What's going on, y'all? I just want to make this brief video, man. This is basically I got inspired by this topic by watching one of my older videos. It seems like I made it a long time ago, man, but actually it was just made earlier this year in February, man. After I saw the bullshit ass Black Panther movie. I think I had one of the first reviews online of the movie because I saw the movie like pretty much the same day it came out, and I did my review pretty much the next day. So I had one of the first reviews on it, and it wasn't favorable, man. And a lot of people, I got a lot of flack, man. A lot of people left comments, and they were angry about what I said about the movie and how I didn't like it. And they said I wasn't educated on the comic book, all types of shit. But basically, man, just a recap. I just said it was bullshit, and even though the comic book talks about, that's where they pretty much got the idea about Panther. Supposedly, Stan Lee came up with the character. And that's what the character was based off of, the Stan Lee comic book. I was like, hey, man, the Panthers were here in America. I was expecting the brother, the one who played Killmonger, to be the hero, not the African. But and then I was talking about how I believe Stan Lee's comic book was inspired by the Black Panther movement. It is a coincidence that the comic book and the movement started in the same year. Actually, I think the Panther movement started earlier, but they didn't put a name on it until later on that year, I believe. I believe it was 66 or something like that. But the topic of this video is, when I saw a lot of reviews was posted after I did my review concerning the movie. I heard a lot of different people's opinions on the movie based on what they thought. And in one opinion, someone said something about, they did a critical analysis, and they said something about the Killmonger had to be stopped because the Killmongers of the world can't sustain a civilization because they're pretty much the thugs. And although females may find the Killmonger types attractive, they can't maintain and sustain a society. So pretty much, I guess that critique is based on a masculinist lens or something like that, or you could say, or anti-feminist lens, because it's different critiques that was done on the movie. My opinion was the Killmonger had the right idea, man. Killmonger, first and foremost, wasn't a thug, in my opinion. He was a mercenary for the U.S. government, and this is what I kind of touched on too, man, because the Killmonger, he was the brother in the movie that was pretty much the American, right, from Oakland. And it's funny because one of the first scenes in the movie, the first serious scene, is when they're in a project in Oakland. And they know Oakland is where the Black Panther movement started. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't put that in the movie. They didn't put any reference to the actual Black Panthers in the movie. But it's just funny that one of the first major scenes in the movie is in Oakland. The first serious scene is not really in Africa. The first serious scene is when Killmonger's father is killed by one of the African missionaries because he's found out to be a traitor or whatever. So Killmonger's father is actually African. So his roots kind of, I think in the comic book it's kind of different, where Killmonger is naturally an African that's kind of pushed to the side by people. I'm not too familiar with the comic book, but I believe, based on my review, I think Killmonger was a part of the African society. It was kind of similar because his father, I think, was still a traitor. But the only difference is the movie versus the comic book. And in the movie, Killmonger pretty much was a brother who grew up in Oakland. His only ties to Africa was pretty much through his father. His father was African, but he was African, or what they call African American. And Africa never came back for him, even though his father was punished for being a traitor. No one ever came back for Killmonger, which is cold as ice. But they made the Africans in that movie look good, I guess, because it was based on Stan Lee's concept of the Panther, whatever. But they never came back for Killmonger, so he pretty much, he was raised up and he became a mercenary. Now, in the comic book, he went to MIT and studied and became he was very smart. And then he became like a mercenary. In the movie, it was kind of similar to me. In the movie, he looked like a Navy SEAL. But I mean, he was a part of Black Ops, right? But my point is, people are saying that he was in the movie, they tried to portray him to be a thug. When he came over to Africa and he overthrew or almost killed the actual king. He thought he killed him when he threw him over the falls. There's people who walked away and said they wouldn't serve Killmonger. He was an outsider. I mean, they acted like and the movie acted like he wasn't even black. So you can see the line clearly in the movie drawn between African Americans and Africans, which I talked about in my video a little bit. I mean, but I think I have made a video about Africans versus African Americans. They call us African Americans, but we're not Africans. It was blacks already over here in this country. So I don't consider myself an African. I used to believe that when I was a kid, coming up in rap music, they had the KRS-One and the Self-Destruction. They had that whole pro-black Brand Nubian. Groups like Brand Nubian had brought that pro-black flavor to the music. And you had the African medallions with X-Clan and all that stuff. And I believed that I wanted to be behind it. All civilizations start in Africa, and that's what they were saying. Then I actually went off to college and met Africans, and I was like, I can't stand these motherfuckers. But a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have that uppity attitude. And it was like, to me, they just seemed like they were real dirty, unsanitary. And it's like, well, you coming over here like you better than we are, but over there you don't have a pot to piss in. So it's some animosity there. Now, that's not to talk about all Africans, but the ones I've encountered. But anyway, my point about the video is Killmonger is not a thug, man. Thugs, in my opinion, and I made a video called Thugs Are Idiots. I might place that link in the description box, as well as my other video on my other critique. I did a 6-part series critique on the actual Black Panther movie. But this is a spinoff of that, so I'll probably place that link in the description box as well. But in my opinion, Killmonger is not a thug, man. I made a video called Thugs Are Idiots. In my opinion, thugs are, underdeveloped boys who, now Killmonger didn't have his father as well, but he still had a rite of passage, meaning he had that transitional phase where he went from boy to man, which is in a lot of ways the military. In some ways, the military was his father, the Black Ops phase. A lot of the thugs, they're how should I put this? Underdeveloped talent. They haven't had that threshold of crossover from boy to adulthood. Just like plenty of kids in my generation, Generation X. You didn't have that threshold of crossover. You knew you were a boy, and one day you had to become a man, but you didn't really know how to become that man because that guy, which was the father, who would take you through your rite of passage, or that process that would transition you from boy to man. You didn't have that figure, so you had to overcompensate because you didn't really know what manhood was all about. But Killmonger still had that, even though his father was killed. Um, and another thing, the comment about Thug not being able to maintain society. Well, I agree with that, but Killmonger was a mercenary, very intelligent. And a lot of your U.S. presidents were black ops, military as well. And I wrote a few names down, like Andrew Jackson. George Washington was a general in the Revolutionary War. He was a general for England. He fought for England before he turned on England and stood up for America. Uh, John Tyler, James Monroe. Over half of your U.S. presidents served in either the Army, the Navy, a lot of Army, a lot of Navy. I think about 26 of the U.S. presidents served in the armed forces. And some of those guys definitely were black ops. They were placed on secret missions, I'm pretty sure, to do certain things. So basically, to say that someone who's a mercenary or a general or someone who, might have been a part of the black ops operations, to say that someone of that nature couldn't run a country or sustain an economy is a falsehood, man. We've had plenty of presidents that were in the driver's seat that were a part of, I'm pretty sure, all types of missions. Okay. So Killmonger wasn't a thug. A lot of your thugs never even make it to the military, man. They're pretty much, they're part of these little Bloods or Crips. I mean, you can say they're organized, but they're kind of disorganized gangs. There's really there's kind of a loose structure to it, but it's not really a disciplinary type of organization like the armed forces. If it was, the Bloods would be able to go up against the National Guard and hold their own, but they couldn't. They get obliterated. They get blown away. So not really an organization that would take a boy through rites of passage and turn that boy into a man, right? Which is why so many of the quote-unquote Bloods and Crips are in prison. They say there are more Bloods behind bars than there are, on the streets. But my opinion, my personal opinion, is Killmonger wasn't a thug, man. He would have been, and I agree with the character's assertion, man, that something had to be done. Just like I said in my other video, I can't see how a nation could hold on to that much technology and not take over at least some part of the world, man. Like those cats in Africa, they had in the movie, they had all that technology. Even the white guy who was a part of those the thieving organization that was going around terrorizing, part of his arm was a gun. He got that technology from the Wakandans or whatever, the group in Africa. All right, so to have that type of technology and not take over the world when you're underneath the world's foot, I mean, it's just not realistic, man. I mean, and then when he tried to take over, when Killmonger defeated the king and tried to take over the world, the old king went against him. So it's pretty much that black on black situation. At least in a movie, I guess you're trying to base it on the comic book, but all of the comic book idiots don't really realize that the movie is loosely based on a comic book, because, like I said before, the Killmonger's character in the movie is a little bit different than the Killmonger in the comic book. All right, that narrative is a little different. But you get all the comic book nuts on my page. Or you don't know about the comic book, and the comic book, the Panther is African, and you should read the comic book. You're not versed in that, and they don't really get when someone's doing a critical. Some of them know. Most of them don't get when someone's doing a critique on a movie. They don't know what lens I'm using, whether I'm using an African Americanist lens or you know, a black power lens or a feminist lens. That goes over most of their heads. It's the same, just like in college, man, when you write certain papers. And if you know anything about, literature, then you'll know there's different type of lenses where you can critique, uh, different various mediums. You can critique movies, books, write articles about those books and movies by using a critical lens. You got a feminist critical lens, a historian lens. There's various type of ways in which to critique. But anyway, I just wanted to make that video because once I saw one of my old videos and I watched it, now it feels like I made that video a long time ago, but it was less than 6 months ago. And I was just laughing to myself, man. I saw, it's got like 100 and almost 200 comments. I'm going back and forth with fools, but I do thank people for their comments. To pretty much let your voice be heard. We all do have different opinions. I just don't. I'm not big on the name calling and all of that, but I don't really get sensitive to it. Just like I have opinions when I watch other videos. But not to go off on a rant, but yeah, Killmonger is not a thug, man. His position would have been solidified. He would have been able to, in my opinion, he had the right idea. He would have had to take over the world, or at least some part of the world, when you're underneath the world's feet. Now, would they have lost people? Quite possibly, yeah, it happens in war. Could they have possibly been defeated? Maybe. But with that much technology, how advanced that technology was, I don't see them losing in that situation. If they had a real strategy on how to do it and take over nation by nation, I don't really see how there would have been a problem in at least conquering a nice portion of the world, so you can have more control. And they still had the Wakandans or the Africans still had to lie to the U.S. government and tell them, hey, we don't have these advanced weapons. So you have to hide, and you don't really have the freedom to walk about the earth. You're kind of like, even though you have your own country, you're still like a prisoner of war. You have to hide and all that stuff. Where while you see people with less advanced technology and they get to walk the world freely, and they're not going to tell you, the Europeans or America are not going to tell you all their secrets anyway, but, they don't have to lie to you either. It's like if you ask them what weapons, if the Wakandans or whatever, or the Africans were to ask Americans, hey, what type of weapons do you have? They would look at him like, excuse me? But when they ask him, he has to lie or dumb it down. Just like when the white man told and said, yeah, man, they got those weapons. And he was asked by the FBI agent or that other secret agent in America, hey, I hear that you have these weapons. And he said, you're going to believe him. The Wakandan African said, you're going to believe him over me. So you don't have the freedom to be able to do what you want to, on Earth. You don't have that threshold. So why would you want to live like that? And you have all that technology, which could change things. So that shows to me, looking at that through an alpha male masculinist lens, I don't know, man. I don't really respect that. I see why it was such a fan favorite, but I'm like, it was just black on black fighting each other. People waited that long for a Panther movie. That's why I was like, well, it was a bit disappointing. But the point of the video is, I don't believe Killmonger was a thug. He was an educated mercenary. based on in the movie. Now, even in the comic book, he was a mercenary who graduated from MIT. So he was an educated mercenary, very skilled in combat, and he would have made he was a great general for the time, and he was a good king for the time that he had in the movie. Like I said, George Washington, uh, Andrew Jackson, a lot of your presidents were in the military. So it's kind of hard to say that he was a thug and a thug. I think he was much more than a thug. Most of your thugs are not college educated. To be a part of the Black Ops, you do have to be educated in one way or another. A lot of those guys do have degrees, those mercenaries. Um, if they don't have a BA or a master's, they kind of have, they still have a lot of knowledge in warfare and things of that nature. So, most definitely, he would have been able to sustain a society. All he wanted to do was to have people of his hue have more of a foothold in society. And it's funny because that's all he wanted, which is the same thing that countries like France, England, and America already have. But he was looked at as being the bad guy in the movie. I repeat, all Killmonger wanted was for people that were of his hue or of his complexion, or even if they weren't of his nationality, because all blacks aren't a part of the same nation, or we're not all the same people, but people who share his hue, uh, or people who were non-white. He wanted them to have some type of control in the world. And what he wanted for himself and for other people who looked like him, that's what France, England, the Dutch, Europe, America, North America, where as far as the U.S. and Canada, that's what these nations already have, right? But because he wanted that, he was looked at as being the bad guy in that movie. I just find that just totally. I mean, if you look at that through a Black Power type lens, or if you look at that through an equality type of a lens, it's it just throws me for a flip, man. I can't believe it. I can believe it, but it just shows how twisted the world's mentality is. When you think the same way as those that are in power, you're crazy, you're insane. Killmonger was looked upon as being insane. But if he was a white character with the same facial features and did that for Europe, he'd be looked at as a gladiator, as a hero. But because he wanted to, for his people to have what the U.S. have currently, what Europe has, France, England, what they already have, because he wanted that for himself and people who looked like him, and for his people, he was the bad guy. Because the guy who was the original king, he just wanted to keep the technology and hide. And realistically, I mean, how long are you going to be able to hide? They already knew he had the weapon, so it was only a matter of time before they come to your country and take your weapon. So, I mean, they could say the story is based on a Fantastic Five trilogy. I just thought, I mean, for black people to be waiting so long for a movie, I guess they didn't care what type of movie it was, as long as blacks were in it and blacks had some type of power, I guess, a bit. And I guess most blacks were content. But I wasn't. And like I said, I mean, I don't think the point of it is that Killmonger was not a thug. And I think he was on the right path. But I'll probably post those other links in my box. But be sure to like, subscribe, share your opinion. Let me know what you think. And once again, it's your boy, the author, signing out.